Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday. My name is Mike. This is All Things Fish, and thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys are having a great week. It's Wednesday, which means it's hump day. So we're halfway to the weekend. Um, Luckily for me, I received some good news. And from the sounds of it, I may not be stuck in this hotel room too much longer. It's great for me. Lucky for you, because chances are I'll be busy with stuff once I get back home at the house, and you won't have to listen to me babble as much as you have the past couple weeks. Welcome, everybody. 3G. How's it going today? Stephen P., Jenna P. Hope you guys enjoyed your dinner. Muppets in the house. And of course, the one and only, the Zen Ginger. I'm sure people keep rolling in, but I had some downtime and there was a little bit of a void in the old stream. So I figured I'd do a little pop up here, and we'll do some Q&A type stuff. and I'm gonna scroll through the old Facebooks, and we'll bounce between a couple different groups and see if we can find some questions that I can hopefully answer, so that everybody can maybe do some learning. Does it mean I can make the trip to the Clash? I wish. However, I do plan on mailing some stuff out that can be given away, and I'd like to submit some stuff, some shrimp. If you're in the stream last night with Tim, plan on sending some shrimp over for the contest. You'd rather be enjoying the nature shorts. I'm glad that you enjoyed them. Chances are, depending on what's going on with work tomorrow, probably go for a little walk, and we'll see what we can find. So, Stephen demands consistency and stability. As nice as that would be, that's unfortunately just not my life right now. And yeah, if nobody in the chat has any questions that they want to uh, ask, then we're going to go hunt down some stuff on Facebook, because Facebook never ceases to amaze me as to the level of questions that are potentially out there. Submit entries to the Clash by Friday. I'm going to try. I'm going to see if it happens. Adam McReynolds. Howdy, howdy. Happy Wednesday. Thanks for stopping by. Um, See a lot of familiar faces, and we're getting some new faces rolling in. So that's always good to see. Again, we're going to see if. See what we can dig into here. We'll get a couple minutes, let a few more people roll in, and then we'll start getting into some question stuff, and maybe some questions that I find will lead into some other interesting topics that are potentially worth discussing. Facebook group type questions. I have no problem finding those questions, Jenna. And unfortunately, obviously, the hobby's always growing. There's always new people getting into the hobby. It seems like the same stuff gets asked a lot, so I'll try to hit on stuff that's maybe a little bit deeper than how many guppies can I fit in a 5 gallon aquarium. I was listening back to the stream yesterday, and obviously this headset microphone setup is not cutting it, because there's no windscreen on it or pop filter. So I apologize. I'll try to keep the P's to an absolute minimum, but we'll see what happens, because that drove me crazy listening back to that stream. I don't usually listen to my stuff back, but I was taking notes. Tim had some awesome stuff to say, some excellent questions in the chat, and I appreciate you guys' participation. Definitely help made the stream a little bit better. Uh, Jenna, the best eBay seller to get aquatic seeds. Let me go find them. I'll do some research and I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. 53 guppies in a 5 gallon. That's always the answer. Definitely not impossible. Oh boy. So normally at home, I'd share my screen, but due to the limitations of this stupid computer that I'm working on at the time, I'll save you guys the hassle of me trying to share screens, and I'll just read them off, and we'll plow through some and see if we can find some entertainment out of it. Because unfortunately, a lot of the Facebook groups anymore that had potential to be informational are more or less only useful for sheer entertainment these days. But we'll see what we find. Adam's gonna raise you 100, and Steven suggested that regardless of the seller, the experience will be the same. 100%, man. No question about it. So let's see what we can dig up. I'll ask the question. You guys can throw some feedback. I'll give my 2 cents, and we'll see what we come up with. But, however, I would like to say thanks to those of you that have supported the channel through super chats and memberships, such as these two great folks, Jenna P and Stephen P. Awesome. Thanks so much. Probably wouldn't keep doing this as much as I am without you guys. It's always nice to have people to bounce ideas off of and get some feedback from and encourage you to keep going. And then, of course, the one and only Zen Ginger. Thanks for all the support over the years that we've been taking this journey here at All Things Fish. So thanks a ton. Appreciate it. I do have some stuff for you guys. I did get a shipping tracking address. Sorry, a tracking number in the mail. So I'm hoping to ideally be home this weekend, and then I'll get you guys some stuff in the mail. So I'll message you guys for your addresses and get some stuff sent out to you to give a little bit back as a way to say thanks for your support. Absolutely nothing, 3G. Not a damn thing. Oh, let's see what we can find. Let's see what we can find. Um, anything good? So, here's one. Does anyone have a suggestion for a good mini hang-on back filter for a 3-gallon tank? It'll have shrimp and plants. Don't want to use a sponge filter for this tank. Links would be appreciated. Honestly, I would personally not run a hang-on back filter on a tank that size. There's, well, it might clean it up a little bit. Most of them are probably going to be problematic, and a sponge filter will more than likely do the job a little bit better. Just because of the sheer size, a sponge will generally have more filtration capacity based on surface area compared to the tiny little housing that a hang on back might have to offer. So wouldn't go down that road. If you didn't want to run a sponge on a small tank, I'd look at something like the mini canisters that Bex was talking about. She just picked up the UNS version, if I'm not mistaken, or no, UNS, uh, Owazi, maybe one of the higher end ones. So instead of a hang on back, I'd run like a mini canister filter setup if that's really what you're after. Since there's shrimp in it, it makes a lot of sense to go with a sponge filter instead. Obviously, it does take up a little bit of real estate in the tank, but that's my 2 cents. Steven says the co-op's got a little one. I know AquaClear goes down to like the 20, which would be pretty big. I think most of them, it's going to be for the size that the filter would be. It's going to be even more of an eyesore than a sponge in the tank. And if it's planted anyway, you can throw something easy like a crypt or a Java fern in front of it, and you'll never even know that it's there. Nathan Hovey stopped by. What's up, Nathan? Broke water pipe. Yeah, that's no good. That's unfortunate. Luckily for us, though, you made it out of there, and I'm sure you're happy to be home, all cleaned up and dried off. Zen suggested the Marina Slim HOBs. Yeah, on a 10. Honestly, personally, The smallest tank that I'd put hang on back would be as a 10-gallon tank. Anything other than that, I'd look at like an external canister or just a sponge. So there you have it. Fishfam.links in the house. Make sure you check out fishfam.link. Appreciate the love. Definitely, you guys have heard my spiel a million times over, but it's a great resource to have. If you're not signed up, get signed up. A little box filter. So are you talking 3G? Are you talking like the clear plastic box filters that basically take it's air driven? Just throw some media in that bad boy. That's another option. So take about the same space as a sponge. They deal with a if it's a since it's a shrimp tank, they deal with a box filter over a sponge. The sponge is going to give you a little bit more surface area to grow different biofilms and whatnot on for your shrimp to graze on. So that's my suggestion. Anthony's Fishy Friends is in the house. What's up, Anthony? And for anybody that wants to chat, you're more than welcome to join the stream. I did pin the link um, over in the chat there for the StreamYard dealio. So you're welcome to. 8 aqua clears. So I think I've run everything down to the AquaClear 20 before in the past, trying them out on smaller tanks, and I think that 20 is an absolute waste. Um, AquaClear 30 wouldn't be bad. I would just, if I was going to run an AquaClear on anything, I don't know if I'd go any smaller than the AquaClear 50 and just turn it down or fill it up with a lot of like foam or sponge type media, and that'll restrict the flow as well if you're worried about flow. Currently, I have the only AquaClears I own anymore are the big 110s. I have a couple AquaClear 110s running on a 75-gallon that has the pseudochronolabris in there. Sketty Nona. What's up, Sarah? How's the weather back in Iowa? Unfortunately, both the wife and kid are sick with some stomach bug today, so they're not feeling so hot. Definitely hoping they get better before I get home because I don't want to catch that crud either. Zen Ginger's running an AquaClear on my CO2 tank. So my very first tank that I shared a long time ago, I don't currently have pictures with me, was a 29-gallon tank that had a a 29 that had an undergravel filter powered by a little Marineland, I think, power head, and then I had an AquaClear 70 on the back of it. And I actually ran the CO2. It was 3 2-liter bottles of CO2. Fed that directly into the intake of the power head that was driving the undergravel filter, and that's how I dispersed my CO2. So definitely, a less common setup, I'd say. It worked. I had big old. I mean, there was gravel in there anywhere from a quarter of an inch to upwards of a half inch over that filter plate. But I was able to grow carpeting plants in there. Hemianthus micranthomoides, a variety of crypts, some swords, all kinds of weird stuff. So definitely doable. Um, it was an effort in learning things, and I'm glad I'm not there anymore. Da-da. Son is sick, and one of the daughters has the vid. Sorry to hear that, Sarah. That's no good. It's definitely more or less going to be a season, I think, just like we have cold season and flu season. I think we're just going to have a season for the vid anymore. Um, Luckily, when I was up here in Washington and Alaska a few weeks ago, I was out of town, but my wife and son both had the vid at the same time too. So I'm about ready to lock them on their side of the house and just quarantine them potentially for the rest of the school year because that's no fun. Jeff Kane's here. What's up, Jeff? Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoy your dinner. And I love that smallmouth, man. No kidding. Hopefully they feel better. Hopefully you don't catch anything, Sarah, because that'd be a big old bummer. Killifish. Which ones are good in nano tanks and what size tanks do they need? So killifish do range in size from anything a little over an inch all the way up to 5, 6 inches once you get into the big dogs, and even bigger than that. So as far as like a nano type killifish, Epiplatus annulatus or the clown or rocket killie would be a pretty good option. Epiplatus dejei would be another one. Usually the Epiplatus species stay a little bit smaller. Another good option that I could think of, if you're willing to deal with annuals, would be the Nothobranchius rickovii, which is there's a variety of them available, and they are beautiful little fish. Not the easiest to keep, and like I said, I do believe they are natives. They come from, are not natives, annuals. They are from the southern area of Africa, and I'll see if I can show you a picture because they are definitely worth seeing. Vinoxky Fish Koto's here. What's up? Thanks for stopping by. Are there any killies that don't jump? Keep killies without a lid at your own discretion because they're jumpers. That's what they do. Keep in mind, these guys live in often mud puddles, more or less. So they'll move from one puddle to the next by jumping their way across there. So I've heard of killifish living in, no kidding, like elephant footprints, like a puddle builds the footprint and boom. So super interesting fish. Unfortunately, they jump, and the more you spend on a pair of killifish hoping to breed them, the more likely you are that the male jumps out because that's just how that happens. Quite unfortunate. I'm just reading through some chat here. Um, Talking about killies. Somebody asked about killies for a nanotype tank. So Rickovia is definitely a good one. That I've personally kept these before. I've kept. I mentioned the Epiplatus dejei, which is a very small one. I've kept those in a 2.5 gallon tank with a sponge filter and some guppy grass and successfully spawned them. They won't eat their fry. Epiplatus annulatus are generally about the same, a little bit more colorful than the dejei. Um, you could probably use like Sex fasciatus too. So new local Austin's here. What's up, man? Greg's Planet Tanks is here. Coral Works is also in the house. No kidding. Uh, yeah, you'd think that fish that need water all the time would find some place to live that they don't have to literally just lay eggs in the hopes that they'll incubate during the dry season and hatch out. But fortunately, for the rest of us, the folks that want to acquire killifish and folks that want to breed killifish to distribute, uh, the fact that they do lay eggs that they go through a long incubation period makes them super easy to just ship eggs themselves. So if you look at Aquabid, a lot of the times you'll be able to order a batch of eggs, and it's usually tucked away in like peat moss or maybe a vial with a spawning mount. So Geek Boys here. What's up, Geek? Atkins, Ian from Atkins Nature Aquariums is in the house. So with Ian and Anthony both being here, you think it'd be a good time to finally set up a saltwater stream, which we've been talking about forever. Unfortunately, they are both working, so that'll have to wait for another day. Hello, if you're here. So the photo there is a collection of Nothobranchius rickovii. If you're not familiar with Epiplatus annulatus, this is annulatus, which is often referred to as the clown killie or the rocket killie for the markings on its tail. Super cool, generally easy to find, and for a large part, I guess you could say that a ton of killifish can do just fine in a nano tank. If you talk to some of the crazy killifish keepers, because they're all a little bit off their rocker, if you ever visit their house, they keep most of their killifish in more or less Rubbermaid little totes, and I mean totes like the size of a shoebox. So that's annulatus. The other one I mentioned was dejei. Like I said, the DJI is a little less colorful, referred to as the orange throat killifish, as you can see here, due to the orange markings on the underside of its head. And these are all, for the most part, DJI are usually fairly easy to find. There's some on Aquabid right now, uh, and fairly affordable. You can usually pick up a trio or a group of juveniles for under 20 bucks. So, a couple options for killies and nanofish tanks. What else can we find? Ba-dum-bum. Somebody set up a 4-gallon tank and asked what they should plant. You'll be pretty limited in such a short tank, so you're looking at more or less shorter foreground type plants or midground type plants for foreground stuff. Even without CO2, Glossostigma elatinoides or Glosso is a super easy one. Liliopsis brasiliensis or the micro chainsword would be a good option. And for taller stuff, there's some shorter crypts to add a little bit more color in there. Amazon sword is definitely the right answer. Can't go wrong with an Amazon sword. I kid, I kid. Keep the Amazon swords in the Amazon far, far away from me. So I have no interest in those damn things. Um, do, do, do. Cubanichthys cubensis. That's a fish I'm not familiar with. These, oops, cubensis. Let's take a look. Oh, that's a cute little guy. So I'm not familiar with those. Looks like it might be a type of, kind of resembles a pupfish. Looks like it's potentially a small killie from Cuba. So that looks like a great option. So that's a cool suggestion, one I've never heard of. I don't know how easily it is available. I've never seen it, but that would be super awesome. 3G, good call. Mel's here, Stormrider's Legacy. What's up, bud? Hope you're doing well. Oh, sorry, I thought I was sharing this. This is the little Cuban killifish that we were talking about. So it looks like it's got some great color. Very small. Would definitely work great in a little nano tank. Add some good color. I'll have to add that to my list of stuff to think about. Scroll through some more. What else can we find? Let's see if we can find a couple good ones. Or what are some good Facebook questions that you guys have seen that made you chuckle, or you just thought it was an interesting question that you didn't know the answer to? Sometimes, every now and then, not often, I find a question I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good question. Usually, they're all kind of silly. Somebody asked what to put in a 3-gallon tank as far as livestock. Shrimp would be my go-to, but like we said, these killies would be pretty cool. Not a lot of room though. Not a lot of room at all. Mm, Scrolling away. A lot of people sharing pictures. Trying to find a decent question that's worth talking about. Oh, here's one you guys may or may not appreciate. So this is obviously a one of your chain stores, Petco, PetSmart, etc. This is kind of, generally speaking, when you're looking for to get into nutrient supplements, you check out your local store. Uh, Often you end up with stuff like this. So you end up with like your API products, Aqueon, and then of course the Flourish line. So the question, since it's pretty small, what one do you recommend for just an all-around fertilizer? And I would say none of these. For an all-around fertilizer, you're looking at your micros and your macros. So your NPK, nitrogen, potassium, or nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then when you get into your trace nutrients like iron, magnesium, molybdenum, all that kind of stuff. So none of these on the shelf will contain all of those. And in fact, most of the ones on the shelf contain very little at all. The Aqueon Aquarium plant food is probably just a whole lot of water and very, very little nutrients at all. They offer Aqueon iron and manganese. So looking at your trace elements, but at $11 for a tiny little 8-ounce bottle, that's a lot of money for getting absolutely nothing. Leafy green, it's probably another generic where it might be like some of your NPK, but not a whole lot other than that. Flourish Excel glutaride solution, good for killing algae, not good for much other than that. Glutaraldehyde, which is common in your misconception liquid carbon type products, which, well, Excel isn't advertised as a liquid carbon. A lot of people seem to misunderstand it as such. Um, it cross-links the proteins on cell walls and stuff, causing tissue damage in both plants and animals. So nasty stuff. It says bioavailable carbon, not enough to be noticeable or even consider really available to your plants as far as anything useful. Flourish Comprehensive, um, trace elements. It's very, very low doses. And then the Flourish Iron, which, as it says, is iron. So if I was going to suggest a supplement for somebody, I would tell them to just not buy anything off the shelf and look around or shop online for something like Thrive by Nylock G. Aquarium Co-op makes Easy Green, which isn't too bad, or the APT line, which has a few different flavors. So you get way more bang for your buck. They are all what I would call comprehensive and, a pretty complete all-around fertilizer for the most part. And for what you're paying for those, it's going to go a lot farther than anything that you're going to find on the shelf. Fortunately, a lot of the local type stores are starting to carry more co-op stuff, so it's easy to find Easy Green. Some of them are carrying Thrive even. Seems like the co-op products kind of made their way into the the local fish store scene a little bit faster. Thrive's been around for a while. So Geekcast, can I order mine in lime? Geek, I bet you could submit a special request and get whatever flavor you'd like, man. So what else can we find? Ba-da-ba. Next. My 15-gallon arrives next week. I know it will be months before I can add shrimp. Definitely a good idea to wait for that biofilm and the tank to mature a little bit. But wondering if they can keep a ghost shrimp in a tank with a beta. Sure. Can you do it? Yeah, it'll be fine. Um, Sometimes you may get a betta that just likes to kill stuff for the sake of killing stuff, but generally speaking, uh, when we refer to a betta, um, you're talking most of the time is Betta splendens, which is the common domestic betta that we see in all the stores, bred intentionally to be fairly gnarly. So it's hit and miss as to whether you can keep shrimp with them, but a shrimp are more or less a natural food for them. So a lot of the times you'll just end up being an expensive stack. Ghost shrimp are keep cheap. Don't expect them to reproduce in your tank, but can you keep ghost shrimp with a betta? It's possible. Um, just don't be afraid if your $1.99 disappears overnight. Jenna's finding some questions too. Let's see what she's got. Has anyone ever had a seam on their aquarium let go? Fairly new to the hobby, so this is a huge setback. How do I determine if it is repairable? So I've never personally had a seam let go. I've had tanks start leaking, and depending on the size, if it just starts leaking, I give it to somebody to use for reptiles or bugs or something because I don't feel like dealing with the headache of resealing a tank. If it lets go, it could definitely potentially be quite problematic. A lot of times people ask, well, like, I think this will be okay. Um, but what's 55 gallons of water on your living room floor worth to you? Um, it is a setback. How do you determine if it's repairable? As long as the glass isn't cracked. Um, if the glass isn't cracked, then it's definitely repairable, right? You just have to strip all the silicone off and reseal it. Um, so it 9 times out of 10, if a seam lets go and the glass is in shape, you should be able to technically repair it. However, that gets into a time versus money thing. I'm not going to spend hours to reseal a tank and hope it works the first time and not have to redo it uh, when I can go and buy a new 10-gallon tank for 10 or 15 bucks. Just a little bit silly. Keith said he's had entire tanks fail. Yeah, I had a friend that had a 55-gallon tank that the center brace let go on, and the front panel just went boop, let go. And like I said, 55 gallons of water on your floor. Not only is it a headache to clean up, you'll probably end up losing your livestock, and then you're talking 55 gallons is substantial. You're talking a lot of water damage. So for me to reseal a tank, if there was a tank where a seam started leaking or something, it would have to be probably 75 gallons or bigger. Otherwise, I'll just go buy a new one. So I've seen brand new tanks leak. Aqueon sells a lot of tanks really cheap because they're not honestly not made that great. For the most part, they work well, but you'll notice a lot of the panels don't line up, particularly corners and stuff. Danger of buying a used tank is that you don't know how old that tank is. If it's sat dry for a while, you don't know what kind of shape the silicone's in. So while you can get used tanks cheap, there's no guarantee that it'll hold water, and it's peace of mind to get a new one. Keith said he had a friend that had a Zoom 50-gallon leak that was not that old. Yeah, it happens, unfortunately. So, despite whatever QA goes into place, uh, the tank could be brand new, but maybe during shipping, it just didn't fare very well. So, Geek Boys turning his hardwood floors into a slip and slide. Quarter depends on the size and cost of tank. Strip and seal. Yeah. Yep, exactly. So you can't just lay silicone on top of it. You got to strip the whole thing down and reseal it. So it's a headache, and like I said, what's your time worth to you? Because obviously silicone's not that expensive if you wanted to, but it does take some time, and it can turn into a headache. Steven wondered about the living room 40 edges of the interior silicone seal lifted and growing algae under them. If it's going to be an issue, eventually in the future, maybe. I had a 75-gallon tank that I got used in 2004, and due to me being more or less careless, I'd run a razor blade, scrape an algae, and it'd peel up the edge of the silicone. I never had a problem with it. I got rid of that tank in 2020, and it was still holding water just fine. So situation dependent. Could it be an issue? Maybe. If it's just a little bit with some algae growing under there, I wouldn't stress too much. Oh yeah, that's an awful idea. So the broken corner was on top. Yeah, and I've seen people like if you break a pane, you can get some pretty cool shapes out of like if maybe you chip the top corner or something, or there's a crack in the very top. There's nothing stopping you most of the time other than work from cutting that tank down. So maybe you have a 75, you remove the trim, and then maybe you cut the top 8 inches off of it. Now you have something like a 55 or so that's just shorter and a nice footprint front to back. Bum. So far, so good. Knock on wood, Zen. You be careful. You be very careful. Yeah, like if like Keith said, like if you take care of your tanks, 20 you'll get your money's worth out of them over time. Most of them hold up pretty well. The 75 that I had that I mentioned, that was pretty old. It was an Oceanic tanks. It had 5/8 inch thick glass. Um, it was just scratched to the point that I no longer wanted it anymore. We're praying for you, Greg. 25 years. I said that 75 that I had, I got rid of it in 2020, so 3 years ago. And I want to say the manufacture date on the sticker was the early 90s. So we're looking at almost a 30-year-old tank, and to my knowledge, the person I sold it to still has it set up, and they didn't reseal it. Jenna found a question. Have any of you ever had to deal with Hydra? Is fenbendazole safe to use in a tank with snails? I'm guessing my issue with the Hydra stems from me recently adding two nearite snails to my 10-gallon betta tank. I wouldn't necessarily say first that the Hydra hitchhiked in on the snails. Sure, they could. Um, but is it safe to treat? If anytime you're wondering about the safety of it, one, I think it'd be fine. Two, but maybe start with a quarter dose, see if that alleviates your problem. Hydra are usually pretty susceptible to different medications. So maybe go to a quarter. If that doesn't do it, do it to half, and just kind of judge how your tank reacts. Hydra aren't something that are going to kill your inhabitants overnight, so there's no pressing issue there. But generally, like even if I was ever medicating like a fish, I usually start at half dose and see if I can get the results because well, the medication in the long run is beneficial to the fish because you're curing an infection or an infestation in this case. It is harmful to the fish uh, in higher concentrations or over longer exposure times. So I usually half the dose and see where we go from there. Coro asked about a glass polishing kit. Nope, I've never used it. I've polished acrylic before, pretty easy. I've never used glass though, and a lot of that comes down to the time and effort it would take to polish it versus just getting a new one. So maybe if I had a large tank, like a 180 or something, I'd go through the effort of trying to polish the scratches out of it. But anything much smaller, and it comes back down to a time versus reward thing for me. Geek Boys is no planaria, so another effective cure. Panicure C for Stephen P. I don't know. I'm sure I've had hydro in my tank, but I've never had hydro to the point that I'm ever like, oh, I need to fix this problem. So I've honestly never treated it myself. Kind of the disclaimer, like, hey, here's my advice, but uh, take it with a grain of salt, if you will, because I haven't personally done that before. Adam McReynolds, how do you deal with somebody who constantly asks for advice but never takes your advice and tells you they heard the opposite from a more credible source? Ask holes are always a problem. Uh, honestly, give it your best shot at first, and then in my situation, I just stop at answering their questions. It's not worth my time. I'll help people that legitimately want help, but if they're in in that if they're in that situation, definitely cut them off. So, yeah, obviously they're not listening to your advice. A lot of these people are just looking to. We have confirmation bias, right? It's just a natural human deal, but they're just looking. They're asking the question, but they're just looking for somebody to say what they already wanted to do. So I refer to them as assholes. They're a major pain, and like Keith said, you just stop giving them advice. Don't waste your time on them. And that's tougher. Like for somebody that owns a shop, like Keith, I'm sure Keith gets a million questions all the time because he offers a wide variety of products, and people probably want to know about them. But yeah, eventually you just have to cut them off and stop wasting your time. Zen's gonna go say hi to the seahorse people. Zen, you can't just watch seahorse people for that long and not set up a seahorse tank. So you better get to work. Somebody else that better get to work is Kelly Foreman because she talked about setting up a seagrass macroalgae type tank, and I've yet to see it. So I'll have to harass old Dr. Foreman and tell her to get to work. Breeding tanks with live baby brine shrimp. Yeah, I believe that. I could see that. I tend to toss a ton of baby brine shrimp in my tanks. I guess maybe I don't look close enough. Maybe I need to keep my tanks cleaner than Steven, because I haven't seen them. Planaria. Yeah, I've had the only tanks that I remember having planaria in um, have been shrimp tanks, and I know a lot of people are sketched out by planaria and shrimp tanks as sure they can be detrimental to shrimp. Um, I've never had a super big problem, but no planaria seems like a pretty solid cure. So. researching. You've been researching for 2 years, Zen. Just started his first tank and is more into the plants than the fish. Right now, you could probably say that about me. The 125 doesn't have a whole lot of fish in it, so probably boring to most people. I have them at home. It's due for a rescape. Love it at work when I'm told you're the professional, give them the best game plan. Oh, yep, that happens all the time. It's unfortunate, major hassle. So I get it. I get the frustration, and that's a lot of that's why I've stopped posting and answering questions. Like right now, I'm looking at Facebook groups. Some of these I've already answered. Some of them I'll go back and answer real quick after the stream. But a lot of the time, it's just full of assholes or somebody always knows better. They've been keeping tanks. They have 3 tanks and they've been keeping fish for a year. So they think they're professionals. Well, you can do a lot of research that can help you in the right direction. There's a difference in research and knowledge versus like actual experience and skill, if that makes sense. So uh, yeah, it gets weird. They drive me crazy. The longer I'm in the hobby, the more Facebook groups I stay out of. Somebody else mentioned the demise of civilization. I hear you. Tom's got a 33. He's been using since 1992. That's awesome. I wish you could still find 33s a little bit easier. So my buddy's got 3 of them that he's collected over like the last 10 years. And usually if you see one for sale, it doesn't last very long. It's a super cool little tank, a great footprint, uh, awesome for breeding fish in, awesome for setting up escapes just because of the the lower height. You don't need so much light, so you can usually get some good light down to the substrate without having a ton of power blasting out of whatever your light fixture you're using. So, Coral mentioned seagrass is hard to get a hold of. It can be tough. Fortunately, a lot of the macroalgae resemble, like they still give you the grassy look, like Caulerpa prolifera is super awesome. Kelly's here. We were just talking about you, Kelly. Uh, I was just telling the kind folks of the stream here that we need to heckle you to get on that macroalgae tank that you said you were going to set up last year. Stephen did defend you, though. Don't worry. Um, and mentioned that maybe you're waiting to buy a house before you set that bad boy up. But I'm excited to see it eventually. Seaport tanks are beautiful. I wish they were a little bit more affordable. Steve from Big Shrimpins here. What's up, Steve? Thanks for stopping by the stream last night, Steve. Hopefully, even though uh, it was an hour and a half, it was kind of an intro type deal to shrimp. And I've talked to Tim. We both had a blast last night. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did. Definitely something that we do plan to continue. Oh boy. Uh-oh. Now we're in trouble. Oh, bear, guys.
Hello. I'm all sweaty because I just did yoga, but whatever.
Dr. Foreman, how are you today?
I'm okay. I had a busy day at work. Good
Yeah.
to see everyone. I can't see the chat because I'm on my phone. I don't think I
Okay.
can. Or can I?
I don't know.
Oh, yes,
I've
I
never
can.
used
I can. But then I can't see Mike's face, so whatever. I'll just look at the chat.
this sounds like a win-win situation to you.
I know.
It's like I don't
And
see
I
the
can't.
downsides.
I know, and I can't see my own face either, which is probably for the best because I'm super sweaty. So
So how was yoga?
it was good. It was good. It was a different teacher than usual. So, mix it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Did they kick your
good.
butt?
No, it was kind of just a regular sort of flow, but it's hot
Yeah.
yoga. So, you're always
Okay.
sweaty.
Yeah. So Brittany has been starting to get into yoga a little bit. One of her
That's
friends
awesome.
goes and has been dragging her along, and they did hot yoga the other day. And
Yeah.
I guess I'd like heard about hot yoga, but I'd never talked to anybody about hot yoga, and that sounds
Yeah.
miserable.
No, it's actually a lot. It's a lot more pleasant. So, different studios heat their studios to different amounts. Mine heats it to 90 degrees, which is good. I have been to studios that'll heat it to 110, and that's horrible. But 90 is
Whoa.
not bad, and it just You can stretch a lot deeper. Your muscles feel a lot better. And when I try to do yoga now at like room temperature, like 70 degrees or something, it's just you feel a lot stiffer and it doesn't feel as good. So you get used to the heat pretty quickly. And I do yoga with a lot of men. So yeah, it's not bad. In the summer it can be a little harder. In the winter it feels really good. But yeah, she'll probably
Yeah,
like it.
yeah.
Most
Like
people
I have no idea.
like
I have no idea what temperature they had it turned up to, but it sounded awful, and she said she was about exhausted after that.
Oh, it does take some time to get used to it, but yeah, I went to a studio that heated theirs to 110. And like I've been doing yoga for years and I'm like, God, why am I dying? Like, why is it so hard? Why is it so bad? Then I realized, oh no, it's 110 in here. That's too much. Oh my God.
When
But
they
90,
advertise the when they advertise the class, do they tell you like how hot they're gonna make it, or is it just a you show up and are
yeah,
like, holy crap?
usually on the website, like they'll say that it's heated and like they'll say somewhere on the website, like I know on my studio, they say it's heated to like 88 or 90 degrees. It's not bad. Sarah says I'm conditioning myself for the afterlife. God, that's the damn truth.
Oh man,
That's great. So
I'll see it.
Coreworks, it's not like a sauna because at my studio they don't humidify the room. I have heard of yoga studios that do that. That sounds awful. So like Bikram yoga, which is no longer Bikram yoga because apparently the Bikram dude was a horrible sexual harasser.
Oh,
Not
imagine
good.
that.
Yeah, yeah, really, like dozens of lawsuits. But anyways, that's heated to like 120 or 30, but it is a really, really slow flow.
Okay,
Whereas the kind I do is like more power yoga.
okay.
So it's a little more athletic. So you can't do it when it's that hot. But 90, it's not bad. Anybody can handle 90. You get used to it.
Why am I not surprised that a guy teaching a yoga class got in trouble?
You know,
I mean,
there are
I'm not
lots
like
of men
singling
who
guys out saying they can't, but
know. There are lots of guys who teach yoga though without being weirdos. They're just, there's some bad people in the world and he is one of them. You can
uh,
Google the Bikram guy and ugh. Yeah.
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 Brittany listens to the podcast, and I can't remember the podcast she listens to, but they kind of do like deep dives on some of these companies that have gotten in trouble for like really weird, sketchy stuff. Like, was it like not Lululemon? What's the MLM or whatever that did all the clothing for a while? Super big, like all the
LuLaRoe. I had a
LuLaRoe.
friend
Yeah.
who sold that, and like she gave me some of those leggings, and they were the cheapest leggings I think I have ever worn. I mean, they will fall apart in one wash. They're so bad. I don't know why. Yeah, I just don't understand that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy to hear the stories behind some of the stuff involved in some of these shady companies and the trouble that they get into, which I mean,
I
they completely have it
know.
coming to them at the end of the day.
I I really hated because like, especially as a woman, you would get to a certain age where the only parties you would get invited to were like Pampered Chef, Tupperware, LuLaRoe, like Scentsy, I don't know, some bullshit MLM. It's like, can't you just have a party where you're having me over not because you want me to like buy your shit, but just because you want to see me? I mean, I
Right.
don't
I
know.
mean,
I think for
now
men it's less of an issue.
you're kind of moving out of that age group a little bit. So now what kind of parties do you get invited to?
Um, I haven't been invited to a party for a while. I guess no parties would be the answer. Just family parties. I mean, I've hosted some parties because we always host people for Thanksgiving. So I guess if
You
you
did
want a
get
good
invited to
party,
a birthday party.
a birthday party, yeah. If you want a good party, I guess you got to throw it yourself. The Clash will be a party, and I'm super excited to see everyone there.
I was just
So,
about to mention the Clash. Jenna was giving me crap,
yeah.
so I think you missed it at the very beginning. You were too busy yogaing.
Well, I was talking
But
to Jake, so
from the
yeah.
sounds of it, from what I heard this morning, I get to leave this hotel room this weekend.
Yeah.
So that
That's
means I get to
good.
potentially go home. So Jenna
Oh,
asked if
that's
I'd be able
good.
to make it to the Clash. I was like,
I think you
probably not.
I think your wife is like, maybe we would like to see you. Maybe I'm
Right.
tired of being a single mom.
And, and not that
Yeah.
she has anything against you guys, but I don't know that she didn't enjoy a 2-day fish deal as much as I would. So
Yeah. I mean, Jake's going to go, and he's not a fish guy, which is really nice of him to go for me. I mean, he'll go to my talks. I don't know. He'll hang out with people. Like, he knows Steven and Jenna and Brooke. Well, Brookley won't be
mhm,
there, but he knows Steven and Jenna. So, he'll hang out with people. But I mean, he's just going because I told him to go.
right.
No.
Anthony and Anthony and Keith said they had to run. Thanks for stopping, guys. Pleasure chatting with you. Uh,
Bye.
See you, Sketty. We'll run this for a few more minutes, and then it's time to go harass Dan for a little while.
That's
He's a fun.
right. It's Dan's fish night. That's right. That's always one I have to watch. So yeah, yeah.
Geek Boy said you only go to the parties that Shanna hosts. I haven't seen Shanna in a long, long time.
I haven't seen Shanna either. I know she got a new boyfriend and a new job, and and she got too busy. So I hope she's doing well. Shanna, if you're lurking, we miss you.
Sounds like
So,
things are getting pretty serious then.
I know those boyfriends, they get in the way.
I know, right?
I
What a
mean,
what a pain in the ass.
I know. I mean, I don't stream ever on weekends. I don't go to any weekend streams because Jake and I
Mm.
have to spend time together. So I don't get to see Steven stream anymore or Bex. So, oh
Beck
well.
Beck said that this Saturday, I think, either this Saturday or one upcoming, she's going to do a stream, and they're going to get into kind of some of the details of what UV sterilizers actually do and don't do with
That's
regards to
pretty
some of the
exciting.
misconceptions.
I have never bothered to own one. I Yeah, I've never bothered to get one. I don't feel like I need one. The flow rate through them, I don't think is slow. I don't think is sufficient to actually sterilize the water. And also, I don't think sterilizing the water is really what I'm after.
Right.
Yeah, I
Stephen
mean,
said he just ordered one, and he said he got a 36 watt UV sterilizer, which is
that's probably
pretty
pretty
heavy
good.
duty.
Yeah,
It's
that's
going on
probably
the
pretty good. I also don't really get green water.
Yeah, that's the only time I ever actually like
Yeah,
intentionally bought one was for green water.
yeah, and they work.
Um, it's
I've had green water once, and I had it a very mild case, and all I did was I don't turned out the lights for like 2 days. I didn't even do a full blackout. Like, I didn't even cover the tank, and it cleared up. And I don't think I've ever there's sometimes you just don't get a certain algae, and green water is not one I get. I mean,
mhm,
I get other algae for sure, but not green water. So I don't feel like I need one. I mean, there are some waterborne diseases maybe, but most diseases exist as biofilms. And most bacteria exist as biofilms. And so a UV sterilizer wouldn't help. But they will help for green water. Do you remember how back in the day, because you've been doing this a while, there used to be diatom
mhm. He used to put
filters?
it in was it the Magnums? I think Marineland had their
Yes.
filter called a Magnum, and you could put diatomaceous earth in there, and it would
Right. And
filter out green water.
that worked like magic for green water. But they don't make those anymore. So,
I
and
I
somebody's like,
haven't
"Oh,
seen
you
one in
could
years.
DIY blah blah blah." And I'm like, "I'm not DIYing anything." So,
Not that.
it's not
Well,
happening. Yeah.
the canisters that I have on the 125, like I bought the 125 used, so the filters just came with it. But they're both the Aquatop CF 500 UVs, and I don't know that I've ever actually turned the lights on for any, like the UVs on for any significant amount of time.
Yeah.
I'm not super keen on the idea of putting a UV light inside a filter housing myself.
I'm not either. You know, UV works by causing mutations in DNA. It causes unrepairable DNA damage, and you're causing mutations in your bacteria that's in the water column, but it's not going to kill it altogether because it exists as biofilm. I mean, it's not something I really care about. So Geek Boy, yes, the Vortex diatome filter. I do remember those. I never had one though. But yes, they did work for green water. They work really well. Your mutations, where's
I'm not sure where Matt's at, to be honest.
Where is Matt? I mean, Matt,
Prob-
it's maybe he's eating dinner, maybe spending some time with his wife, maybe,
he's probably working on the chicken coop.
maybe he's petting a cat, maybe he's petting his dog. I don't know.
So
So
Steve mentioned, he said he wants to see Dan and Jason at the Clash have a knowledge competition. That's kind of an interesting deal because they both kind of specialize in different things a little bit.
they
And that's
do,
like,
and the loser has to pick a different stream time. That's really funny. That's really good.
so that would be
Oh.
entertaining. You could have some sort of debate, I'm sure, that people could potentially gain entertainment value from.
It would be entertaining, but the schedule is jam-packed, and that's because they have me on the schedule way too much. I mean, I'm giving 2 talks and 2 panel chats, which is more than any other person there. So, I mean, but
Glutton
what
for punishment.
I know, but one of the panel chats is on pond plants, and Ted Coletti will be on it. And Ted Coletti really likes to talk, so I'll just sit back. I don't need to do anything. So, and then the other one, Bentley, will be on. So I don't need to talk for either one, really. So,
So
yeah.
are you going to buy me one of his books and have him sign it and mail it to me?
Oh, God damn it, Mike. Hi, Ian.
You know, there's some things I can't let go.
There's so many things you can't let go.
That's the trick,
So,
Stephen.
when
Like
you
exposure
guys
time.
Yeah, it's external. Yeah, and that's the thing, those little teeny tiny ones that have a really weak light and really little flow through them. I don't think they actually do much. But didn't you want it also to maybe like cure the green water in your pond? Well, oh, you were thinking about it for your tank that has myco.
Mm.
So the problem is mycobacteria exists as a biofilm, just like most pathogens do. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot. There is no known treatment for myco beyond tearing down your tank. So myco is mycobacterium. It's related to a pathogen in humans that causes tuberculosis. Um, it is actually can infect people. It generally does not if you're immunocompromised, if you have open sores on your hands, you can get a myco-infection, which will present as like ulcerations on your skin, and it is very difficult to treat in humans. Myco does not usually infect most species of fish. They can usually fight it off. It's not a terribly infectious disease, but rainbows are uniquely susceptible to it. That's why rainbows really, really like clean water. So, and the thing about mycobacteria is it needs to be at a certain copy number to be infectious. Um, and it's usually always in all tanks. But like if rainbow fish breeders they see a sign of it, they'll nuke their entire tank. They'll nuke their whole system, tear it down, bleach it, whole 9 yards, because they're so terrified of getting it. I have lost two fish to mycobacteria, two rainbows. Um, and I haven't had a problem since. I don't breed my rainbows, I don't sell them. And so I haven't had a problem since then. Steven, I don't think that's a bad idea. So he's using the UV for his myco. And the goal is to attack water cleanliness from multiple angles and then encourage better bacteria to outcompete the micro. And I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I really think that just upping your hygiene is a good idea. I mean, Steven already does water changes and he does large water changes every week, which is very good. It's very good to do water changes, people, in case you were wondering. But doing like an extra big water change every week for a couple months, I think is a good idea. So Ian asked, would a micron filter help with pathogens? So mycobacteria are the smallest bacteria. They are very, very tiny. You would need a very, very low mesh. So most bacteria are, they're smaller than, they're going to go through the half micron mesh
Hmm.
because they're so tiny. Yeah, they're the smallest cells are mycobacteria. So yeah, and there's a really good article on mycobacteria. It's probably the best article on the Facebook group Rainbow Fish Live under their files section that you
Okay.
can read about. And it's a really depressing article, actually. It's because there is no known treatment for it, and it also shows some pictures of like a person who has myco on their hands. So just you want to exercise caution if you're battling the disease. You want to exercise caution with that tank. Make sure you don't have any broken skin on your hands. If you have eczema, you need to wear long gloves. You need to wash your hands. If you're a person who's immunocompromised, you shouldn't touch your tank. So you just need to
Yeah.
practice really good hygiene because it can infect people, but it doesn't usually, you know. So pathogens all have what's called an R value, like an R squared value. So like, and the R value, the higher it is, the more people an infection will infect. So like
Hmm.
one person with measles, for instance, will infect up to 10 people. It's very, very infectious. But
Okay.
it's really low. It's really, really low. Like you'd be very unlucky to get an infection.
Right.
But it can happen. And if you do get it, it's really hard to treat. So, because
Yeah.
it's very resistant to
Steven's
antibiotics.
pretty smart though. I think he's on the right track. I'd hit that shit
Yeah,
with everything you got, Steven.
I think it is a good idea. And like if you isolate the fish and maybe even consider euthanizing the fish, because that fish is not going to recover. I hate to say it.
Do you know, or do you think, is it something that rainbow fish, like in their natural habitat, like aren't exposed to, so that's why they're so susceptible in the hobby, or are they
Yeah,
just
I
have
would.
really weak immune systems?
No, I think they probably don't encounter it in their hobby in their habitat is the issue. So they don't have any immunity to it. And it doesn't seem like other species of fish are susceptible to it. I've never heard of anything that isn't a rainbow getting it. And I think Greg on the Discord, he mentioned that he lost a group of praycocks to it. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, it is kind of a unique problem with rainbows. I've never heard of like a person having a cichlid or a cory or a pleco get
Right.
sick from it. So like I don't think you need to worry about the other species in there, but you do need to worry about your picta and your other rainbows in there. But it sucks. It sucks because those rainbows are
Yeah.
so
It's unfortunate.
beautiful. Yeah, and a mature rainbow can't. There's no money that can
No.
buy a 3-year-old rainbow. So
Right.
Yeah, but I do think that you were going about it the right way, and just increasing your hygiene and is the way to go. So,
So,
yeah, but
awesome.
and like don't breed anything from that tank. Don't breed any rainbows. Maybe for a year at least. If you were thinking about breeding rainbows, maybe just don't for a while. Make sure you're disease
Yeah.
free. But
Bex is here. What's up, Bex? George
hi
from Aquaball stopped
Bex.
by. How's it going, guys?
Hi George.
You
Good to
guys
see
snuck in on
everyone.
the you guys
We
snuck in on the
did.
tail end here. We're gonna head over to harass Dan.
I
Dan's streaming in
know.
about 10 minutes here.
I know. I just hopped on so you could see my sweaty yoga face, and
Oh, well, we
yeah.
appreciate it.
I know. Can't wait to see everyone at the clash. It's gonna be so good to see a lot of you. Not all of you, of course, because like Mikey won't be there. Bex won't be there. Zenny won't be there. But so I've told Zenny this, but I'm gonna tell everyone else. I'm gonna move in with Zenny this January because
Really.
because I don't want to be cold. So I'm just gonna move in, and I'll cook and do water changes. So-
Well, so if I'm not mistaken, you have a very beautiful tank that you planned on setting up macroalgae in, correct?
I do have a really beautiful tank, but I just can't do it. I'm not setting up any more tanks in this house,
Well,
and I
now
don't
just now
know
just
when I'll be moving. But I'm not
right.
living in this house forever.
Well,
So
here's what I'm thinking. So Zen wants to set up a seahorse tank. You want to set up a
yeah.
macroalgae tank. You're moving in
Mhm.
with her in January anyway, so you might as well take the tank with you. Then you're setting up not in your house, and you both win.
I know it's true. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah, Zen, we cannot combine our cat populations. That's too many cats. That's too many cats. It's true.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I want a seahorse. Seahorses, they seem very fussy, but I want Zen to do it. I want Zenny to do it. That'd be awesome. I think it's really cool. I
sounds like
think
it'd be a
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. I want to have Pseudomagil cyanodorsalis, and then probably some cool looking gobies. I think.
mhm.
I don't know
So
what else I would have. I don't know.
I had half a dozen Pseudomugil cyanodorsalis,
Mm.
and they were just getting to breeding age. I had them in a 15, and then I switched salts because I ran out of salt. The salt that I used to mix it, since I was keeping them
Mhm.
brackish to try to spawn them, and I
Yeah.
lost them when I switched salts. So I threw the rest of that batch of salt out.
Oh. Oh no. I'm really surprised. I mean, they've always struck me as really hardy fish from what I've heard. I've never kept them,
Yeah,
but
so it could have been
oh,
a
that
bad batch of
sucks.
salt, or
Yeah, because
you don't see them for sale
from
very
what I've
often.
heard, they breed like guppies. They breed just like rodents. It's just yeah, it's even I could breed them, and I'm a terrible fish breeder. So,
Yeah,
but
I
they're
was pretty
really
bummed, and
pretty. That does suck.
so
But
I
maybe I
think
would want other saltwater fish, either, either in addition or as opposed to the pseudomugils. I'm not as knowledgeable of saltwater fish.
yeah. I mean,
They're
if you're
quite
going brackish, there's a lot of options for gobies that opens up too.
Mhm. It's true. I don't think I would go brackish. I think I would just go full salt. The pseudomugil cyanodorsalis, they
Mhm.
can go full salt and still breed. So
Right.
I think
So
I would just go full salt.
I think I shared the video in the Discord maybe from Australian Biotopes, where they went on a tour, and they followed kind of the tide as it came in and out, and the fish would go in a single day would go from full fresh to full salt, and there were pseudomugils in there.
Wow. That's so cool. I love his channel. If you've never checked out that channel, friends in the chat, it's amazing. I mean, just seeing rainbows and pseudomugils in their natural habitat, and his cinematography is beautiful.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
incredible. He posts some awesome photos on Facebook too.
Yeah, really good content. really good content. So even if you're not a rainbow person, I think you just enjoy it. Just
Right.
to see some good nature.
Hmm.
So yeah, they do they will not breed though in fresh water.
Hmm.
But I have heard like of them. I can't remember who said it, but like they've had them like jump from like a tank that was full salt to full fresh, and then like they'll find them and they're just fine swimming around in there. Oh,
Hmm.
move them back because you know rainbows and Tuna McGills are jumpers, so you
Right.
gotta make sure you have a good lid always. This tank I have, it does have a really good lid though, and it's drilled, which is fantastic. But the way the stand is, it would only have room for a very small sump.
Okay.
But I want to sump because
Wow.
I
Holy
do.
smokes.
Yeah, I want to sump. I think that all my big tanks from now on I'm gonna get drilled and have sumps because I
Hmm.
just think it's the way to go. I think it looks better. I think it would be easier for me to maintain by myself because I can't clean an FX6 by myself. It's too heavy. But
Right.
I could clean a sump by myself because you just pull out pads. It's
Right.
it's easy.
Hmm.
So I think it would be a nice thing for me. But when I set this tank up, I wasn't very knowledgeable about sumps, and I think that since I have you as a resource and some other friends, I could do it.
Yeah, it
So
wouldn't be too hard.
yeah,
So
yeah, and this
awesome.
tank is drilled. So it came with a filter, but it came with a really underpowered Fluval that I gave to the metalheads anyways, because like it's just
Hmm.
I think it's like a 206 maybe. Yeah.
Little undersized.
For a
So
70-gallon tank. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean I
I mean, if it's
I
already
mean I
drilled,
would
the hard work's done for you.
exactly, but the way the stand is, it would only have room for like a little cube sump.
Hmm.
But I'm sure there's something that would work, and Gina said she could help me
You
pick
get
out
flexible.
something.
Cool.
Yeah, Gina said she could help me pick out something because I'm not going to make my own sump. I mean, that's not happening. I would just buy
We know
something.
you better than that.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I mean, that's not very fun. So,
Awesome. Well, you have to
yeah,
keep us updated. But it's just about
we got
eight
to go over
o'clock
to
over there.
Dan. I know. Well, thanks for letting me crash.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, and we'll have to chat again one of the days. Everybody that was in the chat, thanks for hanging out. If you're lurking, you're welcome to lurk. Those of you that were talking, appreciate it. Pleasure to talk to you all, and we hope you have a great night.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.